when you stop explaining yourself to everyone, when you stop trying to prove your worth, and when you finally decide to focus on yourself, that's when your life truly begins to change. You see, silence is not weakness. It's power. It's the power that comes from knowing who you are and not needing to shout it for the world to hear. Most people waste their energy trying to convince others, convince them they're good enough, smart enough, capable enough. But the truth is, the more you chase validation, the further you drift from your own purpose. When you focus on yourself, you redirect that energy inward. You build yourself quietly, you grow in the shadows, you learn, you heal, you evolve. And one day, people look at you and wonder how you did it. But you didn't say you'd do it, you showed it. Silence is your armor in a world obsessed with noise. When everyone else is talking, gossiping, posting, comparing, you stay still, you protect your peace. You understand that not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, or your emotions. Because not everyone clapping for you wants to see you win. So stop explaining, stop defending. You don't owe anyone your story, your pain, or your process. Keep your circle small, keep your moves quiet. And while others are busy talking, you will be busy transforming. When you master silence, you master control over your emotions, your reactions, your focus. You stop letting the outside world dictate how you feel inside. And that's when something beautiful happens. You start to see results. You become calmer, stronger, more confident. People start to sense it. They feel your power without you saying a word. Remember this, lions don't need to announce they're lions. Their presence speaks for itself. So from this moment on, stop trying to be understood. Stop wasting time explaining yourself. Just work, just grow, just be. Focus on yourself and stay silent. And I promise you, your life will transform in ways words could never describe. Silence is strength, not weakness. Let your actions speak. In a world that constantly tells you to speak up, to share your opinions, to prove your worth, choosing silence can feel unnatural. Yet, silence is one of the most powerful forces you can master. It is not about being passive or submissive. It's about being in control. The person who can remain calm and composed in a storm commands far more respect than the one who reacts to every gust of wind. Silence is a form of discipline. It requires self-control, emotional intelligence, and confidence in your own identity. When you stay silent, you give yourself time to observe. You see things others miss because they are too busy talking. You pick up on the energy in the room, the tone in someone's voice, the intentions hidden between words. People reveal everything if you just let them talk long enough. The silent person gains knowledge not through noise, but through awareness. That awareness becomes your advantage, the quiet kind of power that doesn't shout, but still dominates the room. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. Think about it when someone rarely talks and finally chooses to everyone listens. Because silence creates anticipation. It gives meaning to your voice. It's not about saying nothing. It's about saying the right thing at the right time. That precision, that patience, that's strength. People often confuse silence with weakness because they associate speaking up with power. But real power doesn't need to prove itself. The most dangerous people in the room are never the loudest. They're the ones observing, analyzing, and staying composed while everyone else loses control. Silence keeps your emotions in check. It prevents you from reacting impulsively, from saying something you can't take back, from showing your vulnerabilities to people who might use them against you. Silence also builds mystery. When you stop explaining yourself, people start wondering what you're thinking, what you're planning, who you really are. That mystery commands respect. When you talk too much, you make yourself predictable and predictable people are easy to manipulate. But when you're silent, you become unreadable. You keep your cards close to your chest, and that makes others cautious around you. They think twice before crossing you, before judging you, before underestimating you. There's another kind of silence, the internal one, the quiet that comes when you stop letting every opinion, every piece of drama, every distraction enter your mind. When you can quiet the noise within, you start hearing your own voice clearly. That's the voice that guides you toward purpose, toward clarity, toward peace. Most people can't hear it because their minds are cluttered with external noise. But when you embrace silence, you connect with yourself. You understand what truly matters and what doesn't. You stop chasing validation, you stop over-explaining, and you stop wasting energy on things that don't serve you. Silence teaches patience. It reminds you that everything meaningful takes time. You don't have to announce your progress, your goals, or your pain. You can build quietly, heal privately, and win silently. There's something incredibly powerful about people who don't advertise their journey yet end up miles ahead. They understand that the best results speak louder than any words ever could. When you remain silent in moments of conflict, you demonstrate emotional maturity. It's easy to react, to argue, to try to prove you're right. But silence shows control. It disarms people. It frustrates those who seek to provoke you because you deny them the reaction they crave. Silence protects your peace, your dignity, and your focus. It allows you to respond strategically instead of emotionally. You learn to act with purpose, not out of anger or ego. Silence can also expose truth. When you stop engaging with lies, gossip, or negativity, those things collapse under their own weight. You don't need to fight every rumor or correct every misconception. Time and truth have a way of revealing everything. By staying silent, you show that you are above pettiness, that your energy is too valuable to waste on meaningless battles. Think of how nature operates. The most powerful forces, gravity, time, the growth of a tree, the shift of the tides, make no noise, yet they shape everything around them. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply is. Silence has that same kind of presence. It doesn't need recognition. It simply commands it. People who understand silence don't need to prove their value. They show it through consistency, through effort, through results. They know that real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. They let their work, their behavior, and their presence do the talking. When you let your actions speak, your message becomes undeniable. Words can be doubted, twisted, or ignored, but results cannot. Silence also creates boundaries. It's how you say, I don't owe you an explanation without uttering a word. It's how you protect your peace from people who drain it. You don't need to argue with everyone who misunderstands you. Not everyone deserves access to your truth. Some people only listen to reply, not to understand. Silence becomes your filter. It separates those who truly care from those who only want to control or criticize. Mastering silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you know when to speak and speak when to hold back. You know when to walk away from conversations that add no value. You know that reacting to everything only scatters your energy. Silence allows you to conserve that energy and direct it toward what truly matters, your goals, your growth, your peace. Silence is not a retreat. It's strategy, it's wisdom, it's understanding that strength doesn't always need to be loud. The more you evolve, the less you'll feel the need to explain yourself. You'll start realizing that the loudest person in the room is often the most insecure. True strength moves quietly. It doesn't need to shout. It simply exists, steady and undeniable. When you choose silence, you choose power. When you let your actions speak, you choose truth. You build a life that commands respect without demanding it, a life that grows quietly until one day the world can't ignore it anymore. Focus inward. Growth happens in quiet, not in noise. Most people spend their lives looking outward. They look at what others are doing, what others are achieving, and how others are being perceived. They measure their value by comparison, their happiness by validation, and their progress by public approval. But true growth does not happen in the spotlight. It happens when you turn your focus inward, when you stop chasing the noise of the world and start listening to yourself. Growth is not a performance. It is a private, personal transformation that begins in silence. Focusing inward is about understanding that everything you need is already within you. It is not about becoming self-centered. It's about becoming self-aware. When you pay attention to your own thoughts, emotions, and habits, you begin to see the patterns that have held you back. You start noticing where your energy goes, what drains you, and what strengthens you. That awareness is the foundation of change, because you cannot fix what you do not see, and you cannot grow if you never look within. The world around you constantly demands your attention. Social media, conversations, distractions, comparisons, all of it pulls you away from yourself. It's easy to get caught in the noise and forget who you are without all of it. But growth requires solitude. It requires stillness. You cannot hear your intuition when your mind is filled with the opinions of others. You cannot see your potential when your eyes are always on someone else's path. When you learn to disconnect from external noise and redirect that focus inward, you begin to see how powerful you actually are. Growth in quiet means doing the work that no one sees. It means reading when others are scrolling, reflecting when others are judging, practicing when others are talking. It means showing up for yourself every single day without needing applause. Most people want the results, but not the discipline that comes with isolation. They want success, but fear silence. But silence is where success is built. It's where you discover your resilience, your creativity, your purpose. When you focus inward, you stop reacting to everything around you. You begin to understand that not every battle deserves your energy. You stop taking things personally because you realize that people's behavior says more about them than it ever will about you. You stop needing to explain yourself because you know who you are and where you're going. That kind of self-assurance can only come from within, not from the noise of approval or praise. In quiet, you learn patience. You understand that growth is not instant. Seeds don't bloom overnight, and neither do you. Growth is invisible for a long time. It happens in the roots before it appears in the leaves, but those roots are what make you strong. When you focus inward, you learn to trust that process. You stop forcing things to happen and start allowing them to unfold naturally. You realize that timing is everything, and rushing only leads to emptiness. Silence helps you reconnect with your purpose. When you are constantly surrounded by voices telling you who to be, you lose touch with who you actually are. But when you spend time in solitude, your purpose begins to speak again. It reminds you of what you truly want, not what others expect of you. It gives you direction that no external advice can replace. That clarity becomes your compass, guiding you through noise, through doubt, through distraction. Growth also requires discomfort. When you focus inward, you come face to face with your fears, insecurities, and limitations. That confrontation is not easy, but it is necessary. You cannot evolve if you keep running from yourself. Facing your truth is painful, but that pain is what transforms you. It humbles you, strengthens you, and teaches you empathy, not for others first, but for yourself. Once you learn to understand your own struggles, you stop judging others for theirs. That's how inner growth creates outer peace. When you begin to grow internally, the outside world starts to shift too. Your relationships change, your boundaries strengthen, your goals become clearer. You start attracting peace instead of chaos because your energy has changed. The world responds to the frequency you give off, and that frequency comes from within. The more balanced, grounded, and focused you become, the more aligned your external life becomes. Focusing inward doesn't mean you isolate yourself from the world. It means you engage with it differently. You stop seeking validation because you've learned self-approval. You stop begging for love because you've learned self-respect. You stop chasing opportunities that don't align because you've learned patience and trust. You stop trying to fix everything and start accepting that growth sometimes means letting go. The quiet path is not glamorous, and that's why most people avoid it. There are no cheers when you're working on your mindset at 3 a.m., no applause when you're learning discipline, setting boundaries, or healing from your past. But that's where the real transformation happens, in the quiet moments that no one sees. That's where strength is built. That's where wisdom is earned. You start realizing that peace is far more valuable than attention. That inner alignment feels better than external approval. That solitude, once feared, becomes sacred. When you focus inward, you stop looking for happiness in temporary things. You learn to create it within yourself. You no longer depend on circumstances or people to make you feel whole because you've found that completeness inside your own being. There will be moments when focusing inward feels lonely. You'll question yourself. You'll doubt your progress. You'll wonder if it's even worth it. But every time you silence the world and listen to yourself, you'll feel a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more grounded. You'll begin to trust your journey more than anyone else's. That trust becomes the fuel that keeps you moving even when no one is watching. When you live with that kind of focus, you stop getting lost in distractions. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve your growth. You start prioritizing what feeds your mind, your body, and your soul. Every choice becomes intentional. Every action becomes meaningful. You no longer live by default. You live by design. The beauty of focusing inward is that it's quiet but powerful. It doesn't make noise, but it changes everything. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about reclaiming your focus, your energy, your peace, and directing it toward what truly matters, your growth, your purpose, your evolution. Stop explaining yourself. Transformation needs no audience. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone will understand you, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to justify your choices, your silence, your dreams, or your progress to anyone. The need to explain yourself often comes from a place of insecurity, a desire to be accepted, to be seen, to be validated. But when you reach a point of inner strength, you no longer crave that validation. You understand that your transformation is personal, not performative. It's something that happens quietly, deeply, and without the need for applause. Explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you is a waste of energy. Some people don't want to understand. They want to judge, question, or control. They will twist your words, doubt your intentions, and downplay your progress. That's why it's so important to stop giving everyone access to your inner world. Your path is not for everyone to comprehend. The more you try to make others understand, the more you lose touch with yourself. Growth requires privacy, and transformation requires silence. When you stop explaining yourself, you take back your power. You no longer let people's opinions dictate your emotions. You stop defending your decisions because you know they come from self-awareness. You stop oversharing because you realize not everyone deserves to hear your plans or your struggles. You begin to move with quiet confidence, understanding that your actions will speak louder than anything you could ever say. The need to prove yourself fades, and what replaces it is peace. Transformation is an internal process. It's the work you do when no one is watching, the long nights, the self-reflection, the healing, the discipline. Most of it happens away from the public eye, but in a world where everyone is documenting everything, there's pressure to show progress, to prove that you're evolving. That pressure is a trap. True transformation does not need an audience. The moment you start seeking approval for your growth, it stops being authentic. You begin performing change instead of living it. The most powerful people are those who don't explain their every move. They simply disappear, work on themselves, and return unrecognizable. They don't argue, they don't defend, they don't announce. They evolve. When you focus on becoming better rather than being understood, your energy shifts. You stop reacting to negativity. You stop needing to convince others of your worth. You realize that the right people will recognize your value without you having to prove it, and the wrong people will never see it, no matter how much you explain. When you stop explaining yourself, you free yourself from judgment. You no longer feel the weight of everyone's expectations pressing against you. You stop trying to fit into labels and start existing as your authentic self. Some will misunderstand your silence as arrogance, but silence is simply self-preservation. It's the understanding that your journey is sacred and doesn't require commentary. You're not obligated to make sense to anyone who hasn't walked your path or felt your struggles. Transformation is quiet because it's personal. No one else can understand the battles you've fought within yourself, the nights of doubt, the moments of clarity, the inner wars between who you were and who you're becoming. That process doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be lived. You don't need to justify why you cut off certain people, why you stopped going certain places, or why you started protecting your peace. Growth often looks selfish to those who benefit from your old patterns. But staying true to your evolution is not selfish. It's necessary. The habit of over-explaining often comes from a fear of being misunderstood or rejected. But the truth is, people will judge you no matter what you say. You can spend hours defending your choices, and they'll still see what they want to see. So instead of explaining, start accepting. Accept that you will outgrow some people. Accept that not everyone will cheer for you. Accept that your path may not be understood, but it is still valid. Acceptance brings freedom, the kind of freedom that allows you to grow without guilt. When you stop explaining yourself, you become unpredictable. People can no longer read your moves, and that makes them curious, even uncomfortable. But that mystery protects you. It gives you space to grow without interference. When you stop sharing every detail of your process, you protect your dreams from premature exposure. Not everyone deserves front row access to your transformation. Some only want to watch to find flaws, to critique, or to compare. Keep your focus on the work, not the watchers. There's also a deeper kind of peace that comes with not explaining yourself. You start trusting the process more. You stop needing others to reassure you that you're on the path because you already know it within yourself. You realize that transformation is not about proving anything. It's about becoming everything you were meant to be. When your focus shifts inward, explanations lose their importance. You stop seeking permission to evolve and start evolving unapologetically. Not explaining yourself doesn't mean you're cold or distant. It means you're intentional. You choose your words, your company, your focus. You understand that energy is precious and not everyone deserves a piece of it. You save your explanations for those who have earned the right to hear them, people who listen to understand, not to respond. That selectiveness is a form of self-respect. It's the understanding that you don't owe your growth to anyone else's comprehension. When you choose not to explain yourself, you create a boundary that many will not understand but will eventually respect. It's the line between your inner peace and the world's noise. You stop needing to be liked and start prioritizing being at peace. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop seeking validation because you've finally found contentment within yourself. That shift is the true essence of transformation. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply grounded. Transformation is not meant to be broadcasted. It's meant to be lived quietly until it's undeniable. The real power lies in showing results, not in narrating the process. You don't need to tell people you're changing. They'll feel it. And when your energy shifts, when your boundaries strengthen, when your silence grows heavier than your words, your presence will begin to speak for itself. That's the beauty of not explaining. You let time and transformation do the talking. You learn to move differently with grace and focus. You no longer waste words on proving yourself. You let your growth speak, your peace speak, your actions speak. The more you evolve, the less you'll need to explain. The world will see it, even if you never say a word.